Evor, Hellcat, Dragger. If you haven't already checked that out on the channel, you need to do so. I think today, though, given the fact that the roads are still salty, I think we're taking the old diesel. Stop here and do a little launch. Look at the mirror there. I don't know if you can see that, man. Oh, Dad, does it roll coal? And we're here, folks. Let me pull in here and give you guys a little zoom in here on the sign so you can kind of see it. That's right, we're at the Rolls-Royce and Bentley Museum here in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. So, yeah, today's video is going to be visit. You know, Central Pennsylvania has a lot of people come to events here in the summer with the Carlisle events programs. There's a lot of you know, big shows that people come from all over the country to, and even people from outside the country make their way here for these events. And I often think to myself, there's so much more to Central Pennsylvania. I really do believe we're a car destination, and this is going to prove it. This is just one of many really cool places that you can visit while you're in Central Pennsylvania. And but before I get started on that, let me just give you let me get the business part of it out of it. Listen, this is Driven to Compete. My name's Sean, and if you haven't already been to my channel, I invite you to check out some of my previous videos. Also would ask that you subscribe and support the channel. All right, so this is Mark. And Mark, what's your role here at the museum?
Hi, I'm Mark Leszewski. I'm the Executive Director for the Rolls-Royce Foundation and also the Rolls-Royce Owners Club.
Great. And I see you have quite a little collection here, but you have more than just some cars on display. You have some artwork and some other things going on, right?
Absolutely, yeah, Sean. So we have our main showroom here that we have our premier cars on display. We also have another storage facility on our campus that has some of the other cars, ones that we're working on out of our interior level. We have an art gallery, and we have a huge parts warehouse.
Great, great. Well, why don't we start by looking at what's in the showroom, because they've caught my eye, and definitely I'm not super experienced, and some of the viewers may not be that are watching this, so it would be nice to kind of talk about the cars and what we're looking at.
Sure. Well, this is you know, obviously the showroom display for the Rolls-Royce Foundation, and as I said, you know, we've got some of our premier cars here. All the cars here have been donated by either Rolls-Royce Foundation members or Rolls-Royce Owners Club members, or just people that have a passion for Rolls-Royce and Bentleys and want to see their cars here, want to keep our mission going. So we have a little bit of everything. We have some Rolls-Royce examples on this side, and on the flip side we have some Bentley examples, and then we have some other in the back. So
wow, okay, I'll follow you.
Yeah, so this is a Camargue, very rare car. They produce these in series over a number of years. It's actually probably the only factory Rolls-Royce that was bodied and designed outside of the UK. So this was done by Pininfarina in Italy. And if you look at the design of this car and then look at like a Ferrari 400,
yes,
or a 512, or any of the big Fiats, you'll see those signature quarter panel lines.
Yes, the quarter panel lines. You're absolutely correct. Let me spin around here so folks can see that.
So, yep. So
yeah, that looks familiar.
Yep. So essentially, the undercarriage of these is a standard Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow.
Okay.
With a you know, very high-end Italian body on there. So these were quite polarizing when they were new because they were a departure from the norm.
See if you can see in there. Show you the. Okay.
So, but they've certainly become more appreciated now, as opposed to when they were first debuted. It was,
well, that interior is something else.
Yeah, and you know they did a lot of things differently with the Camargue than they did with the typical British car. This Camargue is the only one that has the Rolls-Royce radiator canted forward. It's about a 16-degree angle from vertical.
Wow,
And
until you pointed that out, I didn't even really catch that. Yeah. Huh.
And the instrument panel, they use more of an aircraft-looking gauges to them, as opposed to the standard British gauges that they featured on all the other Rolls-Royce.
This is a Derby.
A Derby,
Bentley.
yeah, DE. It's spelled Derby, but it's pronounced Derby.
Oh wow! Look at the woodwork.
That Derby refers to the factory in the UK where they were made.
Okay.
You know, people don't realize that for a period of about 70 years, Rolls-Royce owned Bentley. When Bentley went into receivership in the very early 30s, Rolls-Royce put a bid in there and at the last minute acquired Bentley. So they shut down the vintage Bentley factory in Cricklewood and then worked on retooling the Derby factory. So for a period of 2 years, Bentleys were not made. And when the Derby Bentley debuted, this is a 3.5 liter in 1933, these were the first Bentleys under the Rolls-Royce ownership. So a Derby Bentley refers to those cars.
Okay.
We have a 3.5 and a 4.25.
Okay.
So, and this one is bodied by Hooper. When you bought a Rolls-Royce or a Bentley back in those days, what you bought was the chassis.
Okay.
You didn't get a body, sort of like a Duesenberg or some other high-end cars of those times. So this one's bodied by Hooper. It's a Sedanca DeVille, which is basically the open front that has the roll that comes out and then encloses the driver.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've seen this in obviously older movies from being filmed over in Europe, so it's kind of nice to see one of these in person. And I just cannot get over the wood. It's gorgeous, and the color scheme.
So these were all hand built to order. As I said, the Rolls-Royce and Bentley built the chassis, and then it was shipped to a coach builder, and then they did the final fitting of the bodywork, the interior, and it was pretty much to order, whatever you wanted. There was no safety laws back then. There was no Endangered Species Act. There wasn't anything like that. So as long as you were willing to pay somebody and could find somebody with those skills, you could have anything you wanted, basically. So you wanted a formal saloon or a sedan. You wanted a drop-head convertible. You wanted a limousine. And if you wanted, this has Lucas lights on there. If you wanted French Marshall or German Bosch or something like that, you could pay extra to have those on there. If you wanted dual-mounted spares like this car does, that's perfect. If you wanted them rear-mounted, it was all up to you. Like I said, as long as you were willing to write the checks, that's all it took. If you wanted crocodile interior or, mink carpets, as long as you were willing to pay somebody. As I, said earlier, Rolls-Royce acquired Bentley back in the 30s. And after World War II, you could start seeing Rolls-Royce and Bentleys becoming very similar. Basically, Bentleys ultimately became a badge-engineered Rolls-Royce. So this Bentley T is pretty much identical to a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. I mean, obviously, it's got the Bentley Grill on there. It's got Bentley wheel covers and everything like that, but everything else is pretty much just standard Rolls-Royce Silver.
And you recognize that shape.
Yeah.
I recognize the shape. And that's, let me show folks from back here. Let me show you the shape that we're referring to. I mean, that's a body style that I've seen before. And I never realized that the two, until you mentioned it and pointed it out, and you're right. They look very much alike.
Yeah, I mean, the Silver Shadow and the Bentley T was Rolls-Royce's bread and butter from, they debuted this as a 1966 model, replacing the Silver Cloud, all the way up until the 80s. So when they came out with another body style. So they stuck with this body style for a long, long time. I mean, they continue to make improvements over the years, as the cars got more sophisticated, going from carburation to fuel injection, going from a worm gearbox to a rack and pinion system, upgrading the brakes. So they always made improvements on that, even though the car looked basically the same.
And then there's the plaque kind of telling you about the car. Okay.
And this is a Bentley Mark VI. This was a post-war car, some of the earliest post-war cars after the war. Like many European cars, the chassis were somewhat identical to when production stopped before the war. The Mark VIs had already been in the works prior to the war, so this has upgraded suspension, independent front suspension. This has overdrive transmission, and all of those other things. But it still has that very proper British look to it. And once again, this is a custom-bodied car. You could get a standard steel saloon from the factory, but this is a custom-bodied by James Young, a coach builder in the UK.
There's the info on that car as well. And before we move on, let me show the side views. And I just always like looking at the interiors, because these would have been top notch for their time. And isn't it funny how trends come around? Like right now, a big trend is blue exterior with a red interior, and here they were doing it in 51, maybe not quite as bright a red or bright a blue exterior, but you get the point. It's just trends.
Yep. So this is a Bentley S. This was sort of like the new car in the late 50s that came out at the same time that the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud came out. So this was the car that was the predecessor before they came out with the Silver Shadows and the Bentley T's. So once again, this was basically, the Bentley S was a badge engineered version of the Silver Cloud. Other than grill and Bentley wheel covers, Bentley, insignias on the gauges, it's exactly the same. And when we get to the Silver Cloud that sits behind it, you'll be able to see. The big difference was, of course, the radiator grill, and because it took more time and labor and cost more money to produce the Rolls-Royce grill, the Bentley was $300 less. So that was your savings. You got everything else.
So the two cars that are back to back here, there's referring to, and then so this is the Bentley Grill.
Yep.
And we'll walk over here quickly, and we'll let folks see the Rolls version of the same car, basically, and obviously a different color scheme, but there you have it. And then this is the grill he's referring to, and yeah, it does look a little bit more complex.
So once again, this was the standard offering for Rolls-Royce and Bentley from the late 50s all the way up to the mid 60s when they came out with the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow and the Bentley T series.
Other than the steering wheel placement, they are very similar, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Even down to everything in the back.
Yeah, other than either the Rolls-Royce or the Bentley insignia. Now, once again, as I stressed, you could custom order these cars. Every one of them was pretty much made to order, and very few are alike. So whether it was a color scheme, whether it was different interior, whether it was a special type of wood, any of those accessories or add-ons you would specify that at the time. Certainly, air conditioning and things like that could be specially added at that time. When the Silver Cloud and the Bentley came out, they were originally a straight six. When the Silver Cloud 2 and the Bentley S2 came out, then they went to the V8 engine, and that V8 engine in Bentleys especially lasted, that same configuration lasted from 1957 all the way up until just a year ago.
Wow.
So, I mean, obviously it had been modified and
Sure.
improved and everything like that, but I mean, that's certainly a very long time for them to keep the same basic engine components. So,
Very similar, I guess, in the story to the American Chevrolet
yeah,
V8.
small block Chevy.
Small block
like that,
Chevy's
sure.
the same way. Great.
Yeah.
You have some other things here too. I see these are just other examples.
Yep, sure, absolutely.
They weren't short on lights there, were they? That's a 46. Okay. And of course,
and these two cars are a good example of the same basic car with different coach work. So these are both silver race. One's a 46 and one's a mid 50s. One has Freestone and Webb. One has Park Ward. So you can see, the car itself under the skin is pretty much identical. But the two different coach builders had vastly different approaches of a standard saloon body.
Yeah. I'm really liking how this is the roof line's lower.
Yep.
And just it really changes the look of the car when you talk about that. When you look at the two of these, it really does change the entire appearance.
Yeah, so the Park Ward is a little bit more formal. With not as, maybe it's not as cutting edge as the Freestone Webb example alongside of it.
Let me back up here and give them a side view while you're talking. I'm not one for this type of car, but this one's really sharp in my opinion. I really like this with the lines on it. Really is a sharp vehicle.
So, as I said, there's a lot of things that people don't know about Rolls-Royce, and people don't realize that actually here in 2021 is the 100th anniversary of Rolls-Royce in America. And what I mean by that is that in Springfield, Massachusetts, Rolls-Royce had a manufacturing plant where they built Rolls-Royces to American specifications. This is a Springfield Rolls-Royce.
Wow.
So the very earliest cars were basically British cars that were assembled here in Massachusetts and then bodied by American firms such as Brewster or Locke or Merrimack. Later on, they became more Americanized, so they used 6-volt electrics as opposed to 12 volts. They used Buffalo wire wheels as opposed to Dunlops. They ended up using a 3-speed transmission instead of a 4-speed because that's what we were accustomed to here in America.
It's very interesting. I did not realize that they were built here at one point.
Yep.
That's a great point.
So like the lights are, Bosch and Lamb here in America as opposed to Lucas in the UK version.
Interesting.
And they built both Silver Ghosts and Phantoms in Springfield.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they ended up buying Brewster Coachworks, was one of the premier bodybuilders of its time in here in America. And it was the part of the thing was the bodies were delivered to, in most cases, delivered to Springfield as opposed to in the UK where they would send the chassis to the bodybuilder.
Okay.
So this was done a little bit reverse. And when I said that, you know, you get, when you buy a Rolls Royce, you got just the chassis. This is what you got.
And this is kind of neat to be able to show folks.
Yep.
What it was.
So this is a Phantom 2. And that's it. Basically, when it left the factory, this is what you got.
That's very interesting. To see one basically naked, it's really kind of shows more. I really like, because you can see like the bones of the vehicle here, and wow. It's very interesting. I like the, yes. Okay.
In the early days, never built bodies. They always sent it out
Yes.
to coach builders. The Silver Dawn and its Bentley brother, the R-Type, were the first cars manufactured by Rolls-Royce to feature a standard factory body. So this is a Silver Dawn. You know, when they came out in the late 40s, right after the war, this is the first factory bodied line of cars that Rolls-Royce and Bentley offered.
Again, that dark blue, I guess you could call that. That's with the light interior. I like. Very nice.
And these were available in both right and left-hand drive, depending on the market. They were available in both a 4-speed manual transmission and an automatic.
And that's very tasteful. I like it.
And the automatics were actually a General Motors Hydromatic guts.
Really?
With, I mean, they were custom bell housings and to fit the Rolls-Royce applications, but they were built using General Motors specifications and internals.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah. So a 4-speed Hydromatic of that era, you know, is pretty much the same as I mean, obviously modified, but yeah.
Huh.
So the next car, the red car, is a Phantom 5. And, you know, the Phantom has always been the flagship Rolls-Royce. Since its debut in the late 20s, whether it's the Phantom 1, Phantom 2, all the way up to the current Phantom 8 that they're building, it was always the flagship. So when the standard offering was the Silver Cloud, the trump card, the best, was the Phantom.
Okay.
So, and the Phantom, you know, and these were pretty much all custom body cars. You know, you had very prominent owners. You know, they were the very top of the line cars with everything added on there that somebody would want.
Wonderful.
Much bigger car.
Yeah.
You know, they used basically the
Can you
Silver
imagine?
Shadow or the Silver Cloud.
Can you
mechanicals.
imagine this? I mean, this is almost like a sofa back here. Huh.
And this one has a roll-up divider window.
I see that. Yeah.
And you know, the bar and the jump seats.
Yeah, they didn't hold back on anything on these, did they? Very nice. Yeah.
And once again, these were, you know, very exclusive cars. You know, probably the only thing that's more exclusive than this is the Phantom 4, which they only built 18 of them, and you had to be a head of state. You had to be a president. You had to be royalty.
Okay.
They only built those, 4 heads of state. So it's those were ultra exclusive.
Hmm.
So that gives you a little bit idea of what we have here in the showroom.
That's quite a showing here, and just to give everybody a quick presentation.
So, Sean, one of the things that you don't see here that we do that's extremely vital is chassis research. We're very fortunate to have records on pretty much every car that Rolls-Royce and Bentley ever built. And so if you own one of these cars, if you're looking to buy one of these cars, if you need research on one of these cars, chances are we have copies of the original build sheets, the order sheets, warranty records, anything like that. So, our researchers here, they spend a fair amount of time for private individuals, auction companies, sales companies, just performing chassis research just so you could see, who ordered the car new, what they ordered, what they changed, what they specified. And some of them are really amazing. I mean, you've got, names like Vanderbilts and DuPonts and famous celebrities, whether it's, Steve McQueen or Zsa Zsa Gabor or any of these people, Tony Curtis, whoever ordered one of these cars. And you can see that paper trail and prove that the car you owned or the car that somebody's trying to sell you is in fact what it's supposed to be. So we track every car by its chassis number.
That's a lot.
So we know cars by the chassis number, not just, hey, I've got a Silver Shadow or a Silver Cloud. It's like we narrow it right down by that specific car.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So you could actually, somebody would reach out to you that didn't know what they had. You could pretty much tell them by the chassis number what it started life as, at least. Maybe not what it is today, but
and we see that, we get people that, my car is somebody's trying to sell me this car. It's a Rolls-Royce. It's like, well, no, it's actually started life as a Bentley that somebody put a Rolls-Royce grill on there. We see all sorts of things, but like I said, we do a lot of verifications, and it's, I said for a research fee like the Marty report or anything like that, we can get you full documentation on your car.
Wow, that's a great service that I think if somebody's watching this that has a car, they don't know what they have or they want to restore it, that's something that I think would be very valuable to have. And I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that. And I was wondering, because when I walked in here, you have a lot of filing cabinets and it's got books on the shelves and just a lot of information there, as you can see. And it's impressive, to say the least. Yeah. I really feel like this place is the hidden gem in Central PA that people probably should visit. And why don't you talk about that before we end the video? If somebody wanted to come visit and tour the facility.
Right now, under COVID times, everything's by appointment only. It's always best to call us first to make sure we're open, make sure we are allowed to have visitors. Once again, it's appointment only in small groups. In normal non-pandemic times, we would be open 5 days a week. Certainly if you are coming in for Carlisle or Hershey or some other event here in Pennsylvania, I mean, we're not that far from Carlisle, from the fairgrounds. It's certainly worth a trip. And we'll see on a rainy day during Carlisle or Hershey, this place gets filled up fast with people, so.
Great. Well, I think I want to shoot some video of just what's on the walls here in the showroom, and get a little detail, because I saw you had some components on the shelf over there that were very interesting. But I can't say thank you enough for taking the time today to talk about the museum, what you have to offer, what you do here, and just kind of talking about something that I can tell you're very passionate about, and I think that's great.
Very good. Thanks, Sean.
Thank
We'd
you.
love to have you.
Thank you.